Welcome back to another episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart. I'm MommaFoxFire, and today we're covering a topic that impacts everyone, and that's emotional regulation. Now, before we dive into the heart of this conversation, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being a part of this incredible community that we're building together. On another note, also before we jump in, I cannot believe I'm here recording this on the cusp of a new year. As I record this right this moment, it is New Year's Eve. Now, for me, this year has been a wild ride, and I want you to know that it's okay if you're just surviving. It's okay if you've conquered mountains. It's okay if you're feeling it all, and it's okay if you're feeling nothing. What matters is that you're here right now, and you're stepping into 2024 with hope for the future. 2023 brought challenges, growth, and strengthened resilience for many. As we move into 2024, I want you to know that your journey, every single step of it, is valid. And here's the thing, you're not alone. We're in this together, and whether you're seeking support during tough times or you want to celebrate your victories, consider joining our Discord community. We are here for you. We support each other in all the twists and turns of life, and we celebrate with each other as well. So if you're interested in that, feel free to pop onto the tacosfallapart.com or .org website, find that Discord link under the contact me, and join us. We would love to have you, and we're always building that community with people who support one another. Dr. K and I had this discussion a while back, so the focus is on the pandemic in particular, and you'll hear that in our conversation. That being said, emotional regulation is something that we do every damn day. So let's get real for a moment. I know we've been riding this emotional roller coaster that is life. Nothing brings that to the forefront more than a turning of a year, right? The ups, the downs, and those moments where you're just hanging on, hoping the ride slows down a bit. We've all faced unique challenges. Some challenges may seem like teeny tiny bumps in the road if you're looking from the outside in, but you never know what someone else has been through leading up to that supposed small challenge. It could feel monumental to them in that moment. We all need the grace and space to tackle our experiences in the way that serves us best. And today I have an amazing interview to share that might help shed some light on emotional well-being, coping strategies, and how we can navigate life even in the most turbulent of times. Dr. K, a phenomenal expert in this field, is here to share insights, personal experiences, and maybe a sprinkle of wisdom that could be just what you need right now. Before we jump into our chat, picture this. You, me, and a cup of your favorite tea or coffee or drink, grab a glass of wine, and we're sitting down for a heart-to-heart conversation. Because that's what Even Tacos Fall Apart is all about. Real talk, open discussions, and the messy, beautiful journey of life. So grab a cozy blanket, find a comfy spot, and let's dive deep into the world of emotional regulation. Dr. K and I are about to unpack some valuable insights, share stories, and maybe even sprinkle a little laughter into the mix because, my friend, you deserve it, and so do I. Stay tuned, stay present, and let's embark on this transformative journey together. You're listening to Even Tacos Fall Apart, where every moment, every emotion, and every stumble is a reminder that we're all a beautiful work in progress. Let's go. Hey guys, how in the heck? Jamie was here before you bite. That's how in the heck. There is a fluff butt. Well, now you can't see the fluff butt. That's okay. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday. I'm really excited for our guest today rejoining us. It's been a little bit of time, but Dr. K, Candace Kowalski-Delaney, is here with us again. Really excited to have her back on the show. Tonight's topic is emotional regulation during a pandemic, which is really timely. And also we've kind of talked about that being a topic in the Discord, and luckily enough, she happened to reach out to me and say, hey, can we talk about this? I was like, hell yeah, let's talk about it. So for the y'all who weren't here before, who don't remember or anything, Candace Kowalski-Delaney, known as Dr. K to her students, is a professor of social cognitive psychology at the University of North Texas at Dallas, where she was presented with a meritorious teaching award in 2021 for her unique teaching practices during the COVID-19 pandemic. She has been teaching a variety of classes for the past 10 years careers, including social psychology, abnormal psychology, lifespan growth and development, and gender and sexuality studies. She has performed extensive research in transgender self-disclosure, stereotype threat, and safe spaces in academia. Recent interests include joining the local clown troupe for an in-depth study of psychoanalytic theory in performance, using D&D as a form of role-play therapy, and actively studying emotional regulation for trauma and anxiety-related disorders. In her spare time, Dr. K is adjusting to being a new mom and planning a life-changing move to Colorado to achieve her family dream of raising a family in the mountains. You guys, please help me welcome Dr. K. And Dr. K, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. I really appreciate you reaching out and being here with me today.
Sure.
And I've got your Twitter account, your Instagram account. Are there any other socials you want me to throw out there for people to follow you on?
I mean, I'm on TikTok.
You're on TikTok. See, now I didn't know you're on TikTok. What's your TikTok at?
It's the same as
I_Dr. K. Okay. All right, good. Yep. So same there. Thank you for that lurk, Alpha. Dr. D, thanks for being here. Your makeup is great. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. Really appreciate that. I watch more TikTok than I care to admit. Same. Listen, it's hard. It's worse than Pinterest. Like, you get into it and you're just like, especially now that they are offering the 3-minute TikToks, it's like, okay, it used to be, 60 seconds was the max. And so you would sit there and just be like, okay, well, it's just one more minute. Like, it's just one more minute. It's just one more minute. Hundreds of videos later.
Yeah. Well, and then you have the audience like me that I can't stay focused for 3 minutes. So those influencers, those creators end up losing me.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So since we talked, and you kind of mentioned this in your bio, but you had a baby. How's motherhood treating you?
It's a trip. It's a case study in developmental psychology for sure.
Yeah.
Parenthood it's such a bittersweet thing sometimes, because I'm so emotionally exhausted. I could feel it in my bones, but holy cow, didn't think it was possible to love someone so much. So it's every cliche, and that's completely fine.
It really is every cliche, because you hear parents talk about, I didn't know I could love someone, that I never thought that I would love someone more than I loved whatever, or more than I loved my partner or whatever. But then they put this baby in your arms right after you give birth to it. And you're just like, oh my God, my entire heart is just out on the table right now.
I must protect.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's just, every cliche. You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. We do have a question queue open. If those of you who are here in chat have a question and you want to put it into the queue, type !Q, follow with your question, put it into the chat, and we'll make sure to pick it up for sure. So you mentioned joining a circus to create curriculum for performance psychology. I want to know everything.
Oh my gosh. It's such a long, detailed story, but to kind of truncate it. So I met this clown troupe at a wedding, and we learned that they're actually here in the Dallas area. And after my husband and the main clown cut up for a while, we were invited to their improv workshops here in the area. So we went because I wanted to learn how to play better D&D at the time. That was my excuse. I want to role play better. The teacher was so intense that he kind of scared me off. But then a couple years later, Joker came out, and that got me interested in clown theory as a concept, and turns out it's a thing. So this is a whole concept unto itself in performance psychology. And so I wanted to reconnect with that group. Same teacher, but this time we connected on a philosophical level. So I have since been studying the relationship between that psychoanalytic or psychodynamic theory and clown theory. I hope to turn it into a book or a proposal for an elective course at the university. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet, but it's been a lot of fun, and I have a lot of like random tidbits I need to organize into a dissertation of sorts.
Absolutely. Listen, I'd read it. Heck yeah. Let me take a moment to kind of reintroduce you here because we just got a raid. So for those of you who are here with us, thank you guys for the raid. Thank you for the follows. Appreciate each and every one of you. We are talking with Dr. K, pronouns she and her, and we are talking about emotional regulation during a pandemic. So if you have any questions related to that, feel free to pop them into the chat and we will discuss them. But we're just getting going, so you're here at the right time. Appreciate you bringing your community here, and I hope that you enjoy your stay. Do you have a serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
I do love true crime.
Same, definitely.
And because, true crime was actually one of two things that led me down the psychology path. I started off as an engineering major because I wanted to get into forensics, and then I switched over to the behavioral psychology part of things. But man, it's so hard to choose. If I want to lean into some of the more mainstream options, I'll always be most fascinated by Richard Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, though, it's the unsolved cases, thanks to things like BuzzFeed Unsolved, that have been catching my attention. The Chicago Tylenol murders are at the
Oh
top
my
of my list
gosh.
of
Yes.
interesting things. Yeah, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, for those in the room that haven't heard of the Chicago Tylenol murders, essentially a batch of Tylenol went out that was laced with cyanide, and it turned into a fiasco of, I think, 7
Mm-hmm.
separate deaths,
And a huge
and they
recall, huge nationwide
huge
recall.
recall.
Yes.
And there was one bottle that was still unaccounted for in that batch. And they still don't know who did it. So I don't, those are the ones that really intrigue me, are the ones that are unsolved. The fact that these
Mm-hmm.
people were never caught, that might make them the most menacing.
Yeah. Yeah. BuzzFeed Unsolved is so good. You're not alone. You're not alone in this.
I love that show.
Yeah, it's really that those kinds of things where it's you don't know who did it, you don't know what their motives were. Like that's the thing, is that if you don't know who did it, you really can't distill what their motives were, and so it's hard to say like this is why something happened, which I think is why a lot of us are so into or interested by true crime or serial killers, is kind of the why behind what happened.
Right.
And so things like that Tylenol, like the Tylenol one, are big. This is why I just embrace my headaches instead of taking Tylenol. Rocker, a lot of people felt that way. Because this was in the 70s? Was it in the 70s when this happened?
Early 80s, I think.
Early 80s, okay. So, but a lot of people felt that way. A lot of people wouldn't take Tylenol for a decade after that happened. And I think that's when one of their competitors started putting a label on theirs. I can't remember what the label was, but there was a label they started putting on there in reaction to it. And it's right. And it's how they started doing the tamper-free evidence, whatever those things that I can never open without a freaking knife to open it. Yeah.
Or tamper-proof steel.
Yes.
Rather.
Yeah. So, getting a little bit more on topic, I guess, the past year and a half has been really hard on everyone. And we've talked about it here a lot. We talk about it in Discord a lot. We talk about it on Twitter a lot. I mean, it's just all over the place. What are some of the challenges you personally have faced during the pandemic? And also, I'm really curious to know if you're still doing your self-care Sunday group.
Oh my goodness. I hadn't thought about that one in a while. So I guess that answers your question about self-care Sundays. Wow. I mean, I was recently reflecting on the fact that so much has changed since the beginning of 2020. I'm really a different person now. I lost my soul mutt, my doggie.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. My grandmother passed away. I had a baby. all of these significant life stressors were piled on top of trying to cope with this new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the 2020 election, I had a severe falling out with some of my family. So the whole thing has been challenging, to say the least. The Self-Care Sunday group, that kind of teetered off at the start of the pandemic, and then it just
Yeah.
never started up again. And now I don't foresee it starting up again, at
Mm-hmm.
least not with this group of people, um, because they also belong to a group that our ideologies don't align,
Yeah.
and it's toxic.
Yeah. From 2016 to 2020 was a really polarizing time. And I'm in Fort Worth, so I'm in kind of the same general
Oh yeah.
geographic area. And I had to mute a lot of people on Facebook.
Oh, for sure. I got off of Facebook.
Yeah. And
I left
that's,
in
yeah.
January of this year.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's better for you.
Oh yeah.
And even Jamie is saying, I feel like a lot of people experienced falling outs, and that's absolutely true. I mean, it was just very polarizing. Whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, I think everyone can agree that yeah, it was pretty. You're either this or that, which is
Right.
yeah. Dr. D said I've heard Facebook is inflammatory or something. Heard that somewhere. What is emotional regulation?
It is exactly as it sounds, and I hate to be that professor,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the process of regulating rather than controlling our emotional responses. So it's referring to that ability of recognizing an emotional experience that we're having and responding in a healthy way.
And are there any bad, quote unquote, emotions?
So I'm one of those people. I don't like to call emotions bad per
Mm-hmm.
se. Uh, I feel like the problem with that verbiage is whoever's experiencing the so-called bad emotion can internalize that label, begin to think of themselves as a bad person, and that brings its own set of challenges. So instead, I look at emotions as positive or negative, emotions that have a positive correlation with our well-being, and then those that have a negative correlation with our well-being.
I like that. So recently we talked to Tallulah Breslin, who's a voice therapy coach, and she was talking about, instead of saying high voice or low voice, she was talking, she did, our topic was gender affirming voice therapy. And she talked about brightening and darkening. And so I kind of feel like the emotions are kind of the same. Like you have something that's on the maybe positive or negative side. Maybe it's a bright emotion or dark emotion, but it's not necessarily bad, right? Your emotions are always trying to communicate with you.
Right, right.
What are some emotional coping strategies? You know, you talk about emotional regulation, and it's us trying to regulate our emotions. So how do we go about that? And are there any common bad or unhealthy coping strategies that people tend to rely on?
So I'm glad you phrased it like that, because it is important to note that there are constructive or healthy coping strategies and then destructive or unhealthy coping strategies. And of course, the latter refers to anything that's harmful to either yourself or others. So things like substance use, aggression, social withdrawal, everything in that camp. Constructive or healthy coping strategies, on the other hand, are whatever brings you joy. Some classic examples maybe exercise or journaling or meditating, and things like that.
Is there ever a an instance where someone does something that brings them joy in an unhealthy way?
I'm going to say yes, because I the example that's coming to my mind is escapism,
Mm-hmm.
especially in video games, RPGs. Um, I I love these games. And some folks become worried that it'll become an addictive behavior. And the truth of the matter is that any behavior has the potential of becoming addictive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of knowing when that line is being approached before you cross it. Um, is it causing problems between you and your loved ones? Is it interfering with your work? Is it interfering with your self-care? And if the answer is yes, that's when it's becoming addictive rather than healthy.
So on that note, asking for totally a friend and not me who's been just like mainlining New World for a long time since it came out. Is there a difference between like hype and addiction?
I want to say yes, because hype is this, it's a healthy excitement. It's something new, it's something novel, it's something that you can go and talk to your friends about and connect with people on. Um, Once again, the addiction is when it starts interfering with other areas of your
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I dropped a Minion Masters like it was a hot potato. RuneScape too, like everything that I played for years. It's like that one meme where it's like all the games that have supported me through the years, and then the new one.
Oh.
Gold star, correct answer. There you go. How do you improve, or how do you develop or improve healthy emotional regulation skills normally when there's not a pandemic? How do you go about that typically?
Okay, so I approach emotional regulation through a cognitive behavioral lens. So that means that I tend to focus on the initial thoughts we have that lead to the behaviors. So from this perspective, it's a matter of recognizing those automatic thoughts that we have in high emotion situations,
Mm-hmm.
and then running through reality testing is what many professionals call it. So if there's a triggering event like my husband uh, is is having fun and making fun of me,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a little jab. It's loving. That's what he does. But if I had a relationship in the past that relied on that sort of connection, I might have a negative response to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a matter of sitting here going, okay, I feel like this. Why do I feel like that? Is it because he he did something, or is it because someone else did something and that's where my brain went? And it's just a matter of, I don't want to say just, but it is a
Mm-hmm.
matter of um, recognizing why you're responding in a certain way, and then changing that response. So I know I'm talking in circles.
That's okay.
um, I think reality testing really is based on the question, or the prompt of whether you can find evidence in support of that
Mm.
initial thought. So if you think, oh my gosh, he doesn't love me anymore, that could have been one of the thoughts that I had with my husband. But I got to go through the evidence. Is there any evidence that he doesn't love me anymore? What's the evidence that he does still love me? Um, and and using that to curb your emotional response.
Yeah, I feel like for me at least, I can get so like emotional knee jerk reaction, and then it's hard to kind of pull in the logical side. Is there a trick to that? Is there a way to be like, okay, I've emotionally overreacted, whether it's just internal or it's external? What's the trick to kind of trying to in the moment build that emotional regulation skill up?
Right. It really, it depends on the type of relationship you have with
Mm-hmm.
the person that you're in the situation with.
Yeah, sure.
Um, because mostly because a lot of this is communication dependent when you
Mm-hmm.
are in a situation with someone. My husband and I have very open communication with one another. So if I'm feeling some type of way after he says something or does something, I have 100% permission to be like, okay, let me step away and process this. And then there's the unspoken promise that I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about this
Mhm.
together. And I explained to him exactly what it was. I felt like this when you it's the I language, right? I felt like this when you did this
Mhm.
because past trauma or anxiety induced response. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder 2009, I believe. So this has been an accumulation of learning over the years of how to better organize my
Mhm.
automatic thoughts.
Yeah. And it can be hard to organize those automatic thoughts, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
and to have the I guess I was going to say maturity, but I guess it's really kind of the just like self-awareness that,
Yes.
hey, I just need time. Like some people just need time. Some people need to talk it out right then and there. Like it's different. It's different strokes for different folks. So, what additional steps do you have to take now that there is a pandemic on top of all of this?
There's always been a layer of safety that we have to apply when deciding how to manage our emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic has certainly increased the precautions that we have to take. So if I'm thinking general coping strategy, one of my favorites has always been just walking around the mall. Well, I'm not going to do that in a pandemic.
Right.
I don't want to be around people. So I instead have to redirect that energy towards a safer yet still healthy coping method. So definitely having to apply more steps to
Mm-hmm.
find something to help me manage my emotional health.
Yeah, I mean, I would think for some people, it's hard to find the space, right? If you're stuck, especially in the early pandemic. I feel like we went to Target yesterday, me and my two kiddos, and we were one of the very few people in the whole store still wearing masks while we were shopping. Now I'm vaccinated. My 12-year-old's vaccinated. My 7-year-old's not, or my 12-year-old. They're 14. Listen, they don't age in my mind, okay? But my 7-year-old is not eligible. But we were all three still wearing masks and walking through the store. And it's one of those things that early pandemic, we wouldn't have even done that. Like we wouldn't have even gone to a Target. So I'm fortunate that I have an office in my house where I can, close the door or whatever. I can close the door in my bedroom. But I know for some people that it's hard to find that space sometimes when you're closed in like this. So it's almost you have to find the space in your own head. And I'm sure that's extra difficult.
I have discovered so many small businesses, environmentally friendly businesses that sell things like candles and lotions and bath bombs and all of these things just to kind of create a little space for me.
Mm-hmm.
A physical space.
Right.
For
yeah.
me.
I was going to say that little haven where it's for your senses, right? Not just for your mind.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Does emotional regulation differ by anything like gender or age?
Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, age, babies.
Okay,
I've been around one for about 6 months. You have no emotional regulation.
None.
They communicate by crying. That's the only thing they know how to do. But as they age, learn, and grow, they learn emotional regulation from everyone around them.
Mm-hmm.
So the behavioral theorist Albert Bandura, the Bobo Clown study. I don't know if you're familiar with that study.
I'm not.
Okay, so Albert Bandura, he wanted to study how people respond to observing behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
This was at a time when TVs were coming into the homes, so there was this thought that, violent TV is going to make people violent, right?
Like violent video games.
Oh, yeah, it's the exact same argument.
Yeah.
But Albert Bandura put a bunch of kids in a playroom full of all different sorts of toys, and he said, "Hey, go have at it." One of the toys in the room was a Bobo doll. So it was this inflatable clown that had like sand or some other weighted material at the base of it. And it's the one that when you hit it, it bounces back up, right?
Yeah.
So this toy in the playroom didn't attract any special attention from the kids. Now, there was another group that he primed by showing them footage of an adult going into that same playroom and beating the crap out of this Bobo doll. Release the kids into the room. What do? They went straight to that Bobo doll and started beating it up. So
Wow.
who the person that they saw, they go, "Oh, this is the behavior that's expected of me," and they engaged in that same behavior. And there were some moderating and mediating factors, like kids would or the likelihood of the kid reenacting that behavior increased if it was from a same-sex adult. Kind
Oh,
of like
interesting.
yeah, so it really begged to question, how does modeling affect your children, whether you're mom or dad, this, that, and the other. So Bandura would suggest that this is why it's so important to model constructive behaviors for our kids. So we can't just say, don't do as I or do as I say, not as I do, is what
Yeah,
the
right.
parents always say. Yeah, that's not going to work. You
Right.
gotta you gotta model it for them, because otherwise they don't know how to do this. It also differs based on gender, but I personally believe that this is because of what society deems as socially acceptable. So an example would be the acceptable emotional response from men is anger. So this may be why it's the most dysregulated emotion from the masculine population. Oh, that was long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, we're getting a lot of in chat talking about the it's videos are going to make everybody lose their minds and violent. Or rock music or the color red.
Yeah.
Wacky tobacco. I love that. That's great.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yes, totally. That's what's going to make people violent. Absolutely. We do have a question from the chat. So Dr. D asks, what are your recommended coping skills you recommend for emotional regulation?
There was a question similar to this that we had planned for later in the night. I'm going to practicing emotional regulation on your own before it becomes a super need IRL. So I mentioned that exercising our brain is also required for staying in shape, right? So practice looks different for everyone. Sometimes it depends on the day. My routine typically involves throwing myself into an RPG and experiencing those difficult emotions in third person. And this kind of leaning into role play therapy, which I'm sure you've discussed a lot about these past couple of years. We were in the same panels at PAX, after all.
I know.
But I went on to talk about role play therapy with my colleagues at the university. But this is a real safe way to feel out these emotions and process the triggers for those emotions and determine appropriate behaviors, appropriate responses, rather, because the story, while this is a safe environment, there are going to be some consequences in this story. So this really helps, particularly children or people on the spectrum or with any sort of neurodivergence like anxiety, ADHD. It kind of allows them this flexibility, this safe space to practice these tools that they can utilize in real life, IRL.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any recommendations for people who aren't into like an RPG or something like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It depends on your interest. What brings
Mhm.
you joy? Do you want to explore these emotions through music? Do you want to explore them through painting? Maybe you just want to go to the gym and run to your heart's content and
Pound it out on the
win the
pavement. Yeah.
argument 10 times in your head. But yeah, it's just a matter of taking that initial burst of energy you feel and redirecting it towards something constructive while you are planning a response. This doesn't mean that we can completely avoid our conflicts.
Mhm.
This just gives us a place um, to process that and attempt to respond in a way that's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Which groups of people are most at risk when it comes to emotional regulation right now during a pandemic?
Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, I would not have said essential and healthcare workers because their emotional regulation was stellar in the face of turmoil. You know, we had disease, political unrest, all of these things happening. And now, however, these folks, as well as isolated people and those who have been committed to ending the pandemic by complying with recommendations for virus containment, got to put that on the shelf. Um, so these folks are getting burnt out. I mean,
Mhm.
professionals are calling it pandemic fatigue, but it's based on this model by Hans Seeley. So Hans Seeley was a positive psychologist, and he did a lot of research on stress and its effect on the body. And he has this model he calls the general adaptation syndrome. And this model suggests that when we experience stress, we go through three different phases. We go through the alarm phase, which is the, oh my gosh, pandemic is happening. I got to respond to this. Then we have our phase where we're action. It's our action
Mhm.
phase, right? So this is where we are taking those resources that we have and our energies and dedicating them to responding to this threat. Okay, I'm going to wear my mask everywhere I go. I'm going to get vaccinated when I can. I'm going to sing the ABCs while I wash my hands. All of those protocols.
Mhm.
Uh, and then we have the exhaustion phase. So if we stay stressed for a long period of time, our internal resources, our metabolic energy, all of this stuff becomes depleted. All of our good hormones, right? So that stuff gets depleted. We're not able to cope as much anymore.
Mhm.
That then leads us to propensity to getting physically ill. It's something that a lot of people are experiencing these days, this burnout. Um, the uh, the essential workers population, the service industry, that's suffering a lot these days. I went in to pick up my eyeglasses the other day, and there was one person running the entire clinic,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I'm just like, what is happening? And it's just people are getting sick, or people are um, just exhausted
Mhm.
and don't know how to cope with it in any other way than saying, sorry, I quit. And it's really unfortunate because the community isn't responding very well to what's happening either.
Especially not
So,
here.
yes, yeah, we're stuck in a
Ugh.
pocket.
Take
Let's
me to
say that.
Colorado with you.
Right? It'll be nice to be around some more like-minded people.
Yeah. Yeah. Understand that for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's good stress, right? That good stress at the very beginning that you were talking about. That's like, hey, you gotta respond to this. You gotta act. You gotta get there. You gotta do the things you're supposed to do. But the longer that goes on, like, the worse it is. The worse it is for you, and that's so frustrating. And I don't remember what article it was. I don't remember what article it was. It was about people quitting and about the current job market, and the competition for different jobs and the higher paying, and people complaining about how no one wants to work for minimum wage. And I'm like, they don't want to work for minimum wage because it's literally a hazard right now. Like, all of those jobs are a hazard, and you're not treating people the right way.
Right.
And same with healthcare workers, even though that might not be minimum wage, you're not paying them enough to go through what they're going through.
No, absolutely not. My husband is in healthcare. He works physical therapy at a skilled nursing facility, so it's a
Bless
residential
him.
home. Well, thank you. I will let him know.
Yes.
No,
Jamie in chat does the same thing. So bless him very much.
For the past year, they had to have a COVID hall because residents were becoming infected with the virus. And if you had to work therapy down that hall, you got $25 a day, not per patient, a day. So
here's some pennies for your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those, wow, my risking myself, my pregnant wife, and like, that's worth $25?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you?
Yeah. Well, and also, no matter how much the hazard pay is, at some point, money isn't what people are after, right?
Oh, yeah.
People are after safety and feeling appreciated as a minimum, feeling appreciated, for sure. Yeah. Jamie said she's an OT at a senior nursing facility, and said, we didn't get any, but I didn't work with any COVID units. We waited till they moved back up in regular population. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, see, that was my question, was why are they still on therapy with a COVID diagnosis?
Right.
I would say not my circus, not my monkeys, but one of those is my monkey.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to protect that monkey.
Yeah.
So Jamie asked, did your husband ever explain how they had to qualify for that?
I believe he mentioned, he walked me through it once,
Mm-hmm.
but I really don't remember
That's okay. That's all right.
Details.
Yeah. She said a lot of nursing homes involved therapy when people didn't qualify because COVID gave mega money to nursing homes. Oh, interesting. Nah. Yeah, that's gross. That's nasty. That's nasty business.
I would believe it because Texas is one of the, I know that Texas is one of the worst states in terms of retirement healthcare.
Mm-hmm. So, stepping back a little bit into emotional regulation. No, it's all good. I love tangents. We all know Mama loves tangents. It's all good. Not a problem at all. How has the pandemic's effect on emotional regulation impacted family units?
Emotional regulation's most formidable foe is frustration.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that has unfolded these past 2 years just contributes to this mounting frustration. And so this essentially puts families in a pressure cooker. So whatever conflict was there at the beginning, it's going to absolutely rear its head during the current times. So, I mean, there's no easy way to say this, but there are going to be moments where you have to make a decision. Is this particular relationship good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know I'm grown, but myself and my father had some interesting exchanges during this time. So I can only imagine what it's like for families that have kids that are in school. Um, Especially with a lot of the mask debates and the vaccination debates, and these poor kids are kind of just thrown into a battle that they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so while they're looking at mom and dad to help them regulate their emotions, mom and dad are busy not not engaging in healthy coping strategies themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one thing that I was very thankful for, that I filed for divorce and kicked my ex out before the pandemic, because whenever that pandemic hit, like, one of my very first thoughts whenever we went into lockdown was, oh God, this would be miserable. This would be an absolute nightmare were I not, were it not just me and my kids. Like,
right. Well, and it's funny because I discovered during this pandemic that I would not want any other partner. Like,
yeah.
I was so fortunate to have my partner and have our relationship as healthy as it is.
It makes it really clear, right?
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
it just underscores that, like, this is amazing, or God, this is bad.
If this exact same thing were to happen, say maybe 6 years ago, we would have been in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of time to learn and evolve and grow as a couple.
Yeah.
And communicate.
Yeah, there you go. So let's say that you have kids who are school age, not babies, so they can help themselves a little bit. Like I said, I have a 7-year-old and a 14-year-old. How do you help a kid with self-regulation, especially right now when, like you were saying, things are just so weird?
I said it before, I want to say it again, communication. So first, our kids need to know that we are right there. They are safe and they are loved. We need to allow our home to be a safe space for these kiddos. We need to keep our own frustration in check, which is a challenge. But it's so important not to put that frustration onto your kid.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a TikToker I follow that has wonderful suggestions for parenting, and I don't know if I'm allowed to give her.
Yeah, I was just typing up tiktok.com/ and then I was going to ask you to give me the name.
It's at psycho psycho_therapy.
Yeah.
She is amazing, and like she even has these flashcards that you can purchase. You can purchase a digital file, and she'll send you these flashcards, and they're really great for stress responses and emotional regulation.
Nice.
I had purchased some for my labor and delivery suitcase. And so my husband and I worked through a couple of those while I was in labor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely check her out for sure.
Yeah, I definitely do recommend her. She's a child psychologist, if I recall correctly, and now she takes all the stuff that she's learned in practice and tries to teach parents.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've had a lot of issues with school-related anxiety and, that kind of thing. So we actually started doing meditations on the way to school, which has been really good, not only for the kids, but also for me, because I don't have the attention span to meditate. But if I'm stuck in the car anyway, might as well. I mean, I don't, obviously, don't close my eyes or anything, but
Right.
You can just kind of zone.
Kids are challenging because we need to treat them as adults, but we don't want to make adult problems their problems either.
Yeah.
So just using grown-up language makes a big difference. I mean, I'm no expert, but she's going on 6 months and I'm already talking to her like she's an adult. It's one of those, all right, I'm right here. Look, here's my hand. I'm going to step out of the room. Just communicating with her what I am doing so that she doesn't have to feel abandoned, because right now she's in that phase of object permanence where if I can't see you, where did you go? Why did you leave me? So on the offhand that she can understand what I'm saying, at least I'm talking to her, talking her through it.
Well, I will say in my experience, you have to be careful with that, because you're going to wind up with a 7-year-old who says sentences that make you go, oh God, what have I done? My 7-year-old he's very smart. I mean, I don't just say that because he's my child. Like, I've been told he's very smart. And he comes up with some of the biggest words and he'll use them in a sentence correctly. And I'm just like, who raised you? What are you doing here? But also he scares the crap out of me a lot. So those of you who are in Discord or following my Facebook or anything, y'all know he's a crazy, and not crazy, but he keeps me on my toes for sure. The latest was he was talking about he was taking a bath and he farted in his bath water, right? So he said, it's okay. It's just, and he said his name, it's my name, Soup. And I was like, that's a little gross, but whatever. And he goes, and whenever when it drains out of the bathtub, some of it'll go down the drain and some of it'll go into people's drinking water and they'll drink it. And some of it will evaporate and it'll go up into the clouds and it'll rain down because of the evaporation cycle, and it'll rain down on unsuspecting humans. And I'm like, what?
Interesting.
So you gotta, whenever you're talking to your kid, you gotta make sure that you're like aware of the concepts that you're imbuing into them, because they are listening every moment.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Yes, yeah. I wouldn't change anything though. He's a pretty good kid. Like when my 4-year-old nephew ran into the room one day, very worried, and said, I have an emergency. Was it not an emergency? Was it just like excitement? Are there any regular habits that either you maintain yourself or that you encourage others to develop that you feel like might not get enough attention but support overall well-being?
Boundaries. Without a doubt. Boundaries.
Yeah.
They are very hard to set because society has taught us to feel selfish when asking for what we need. But there comes a time where you need to be your own advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite sayings is, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I
love that one.
Yeah, so you can't really give to others unless you can't take care of others unless you are fully taking care of yourself. And I had to do this with several of my family members over the past year. Sorry, we can't be friends on Facebook, even though I deleted my Facebook. It's beside the point. We can't be friends on Facebook because nothing positive is coming from our relationship there, or redirecting a conversation saying, I can't talk about this right now with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not comfortable with such and such. It's just using, there it is again, I don't like using that word. It's a matter of using language in which you take initiative in protecting yourself, and you're not attacking the character of anybody. You're just simply presenting what you need out of this.
I like that. And I think also a lot of people feel like they need to explain their boundaries further than what you really do. Like you can set a boundary and just be like, no, that's the boundary, period. Because that is a because I said so moment, of all the things. Yes, no, this is the boundary. You've crossed it. Step back or don't talk to me anymore. That's it.
Right.
You don't have to explain that, your reasoning behind it. It doesn't matter if you set a boundary. You don't owe someone an explanation.
Oh, absolutely not. And then, of course, if that person gets angry or upset, then that's on them.
Yes.
That's their issue. They need to work through that. They need to work through that emotion on their own.
Yeah. Well, and to me, if they get angry or upset, it's because they wanted something out of me that I wasn't willing to give anyway.
Right.
And like you said, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Well, Bite sent this question in ahead of time, as she does every week, but she would like to know what your favorite poem is.
Spiritual Sunday by Emily Dickinson.
Oh.
There's a line, the closing line is, "What liberty a loosened spirit brings." And I fell in love with that poem in college. One moment where I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and it just made me go, if my spirits were a little looser and I wasn't so clingy to all of this trauma, clinging on to all of this trauma and this negative emotionality, how much better would I feel? And so I try to kind of adopt that as a mantra. Try being the operative word, but
that's all you can do sometimes is try. Yeah, absolutely. Well, since you were on last, we have a new thing. So I have a magic wand here, and we're going to have a magic moment in just a second. When I wave this little magic wand that I have been gifted, you get to eliminate one common opinion, misconception, or theory surrounding mental illness, disability, as we're talking about mental health. So I'm going to wave this, and then you get to just tell me what you're eliminating today. Whee!
What I'm eliminating? Oh, but what if I want to bring something in?
Then bring it.
I want to push mental health into a top priority. Wellness should not be a luxury for people who can only afford it. And if enough people recognize its importance, maybe we can give mental health programs the resources they need to help our population. Even today, this morning, I saw an article about UNC Chapel Hill. They're shutting down classes because of cluster suicides that have been happening on campus.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, they received 2 police reports relating to suicide over the weekend. And then last month, there were 2 others. So it's just, they're saying that they are in a crisis, a health crisis. And I really do believe that part of the reason is access to healthcare.
Yeah, so. I think that's Bite said, so we're eliminating the lack of priority. Yes. Yeah. I think that it makes such a huge difference to prioritize mental health. I mean, I lead a team at work, and I can't tell you how many times I've had someone feel like they can come and talk to me about what they're feeling like. And, and I'm a positive mental health champion, and that's part of it. But I think also part of it is just being willing to engage with my team in those kinds of conversations where they know I'm not going to get upset that they're having a bad anxiety day, or that they're stressed about some task because of a mental illness that they've struggled with for their, the last 3 years or whatever. Like, that's something that they have to prioritize. And I have worked for people where that's not the case. And I know that it sucks. And I'm thankful to be in the position that I'm in, that I can be that person to be like, no, please prioritize. Please prioritize your mental health. It is part of health. Bite Mark asks, do you know about Emily Dickinson and Gilligan's Island?
No, I'm going to have to learn about this.
Yeah, I don't either. So Bite's going to have to type that in. So while we're waiting on Bite to tell us all about that, we'll kind of open this to any remaining Q&A. If you guys have any questions, pop them into the chat and we'll get them asked here. And then I'll just ask you, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about, or research or resources or anything?
Oh my. I don't think so. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. Okay. So she said Emily Dickinson wrote mostly in common meter, which means most of her poems can be sung to the tune of Gilligan's Island.
That feels a little familiar to me now that it's. But yes, oh my gosh,
excellent.
Thank you for that.
That is absolutely wonderful. Jamie asks, does your husband feel really bad burnout from his job? Because she feels it on her end.
Yes. Yes. And I'm not answering for him because he's expressed it to me.
Yeah.
Oh man. Those mental health days they're the only thing really keeping him afloat right now.
Yeah.
Between that and the fact that we're moving to Denver in 2-3 months.
My gosh.
January.
Do you have a house picked out and everything already?
We have a rental.
Okay.
So we are going to be renting for 6 months, and we're going to wait for my in-laws to get out there because they're. Oh, I keep hitting my microphone. They're relocating out there, and
that's awesome.
They have offered to give us a place to stay while we save a little bit so we can build our dream home.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, so while it's always a little nerve-wracking to be staying with your in-laws, I think this is going to be really great for us because we'll be able to save money. We'll have we're going to have someone to help with the baby.
Yes. Extra hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really good. I'm glad y'all have been able to make that work out for everybody.
Yeah. And with the burnout, it's a little cathartic. He and I have been drafting letters to the company upon his departure. Polite, but very honest.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, but I mean, we're not going to go quietly.
Yeah. Jamie said, may I ask what company, because I'm about to do the same when I leave mine. It's okay if you're not comfortable answering that.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That's fine.
Not answer.
That's all right.
Just in case.
Yes, understand. Yes, she's interested because she's in the same boat.
Right. Well, hey, whatever company it is, I'm sure that if enough of this sort of environment, because nursing facility, a SNF, as they call them.
Yes.
If enough of the workers are starting to voice how they're faring these days or not, maybe someone will start to listen.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard for healthcare workers, essential workers. It's hard for everyone. And no matter what you're dealing with, you could be dealing with the most tiny things. You could be dealing with the biggest things. It almost doesn't matter, because at this point, a teeny tiny, molehill becomes a mountain in your head. So. Oh
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any more questions in chat, so I will just say thank you for joining me today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
I am so glad that you had me back, and I love talking about everything from clowns and murder to emotional regulation and parenthood.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good summary of our conversation. I like it. Now I'm hitting my mic. That's okay. Bite says, thank you so much for being here. Great interview. You guys give me just a couple minutes to disconnect with Dr. K, and I'll
Wasn't that conversation with Dr. K just incredible? I don't know about you, but I'm walking away with some valuable insights and a sense of connection that really warms the heart. I want to talk about those emotional roller coasters we navigate daily. I've got to say, hearing Dr. K's perspective on emotional regulation during a pandemic in particular was not only enlightening, but also relatable. It's like she reached into the collective consciousness and pulled out the words that I needed to hear, even though it's not focused on the pandemic anymore so much. But we all have to regulate our emotions every day. Life is full of twists and turns, and sometimes even our favorite tacos fall apart. But here's the beauty. We pick up the pieces, we learn, and we grow stronger. That's the messy, marvelous journey that we're on, and I am grateful to share it with each and every one of you. I want to ask a little favor before we wrap up also. If you enjoyed today's episode, the wisdom, the realness, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a review. Your feedback is like the salsa on my taco. It adds that extra kick and makes everything a little better and appeases the algorithm gods as well. Share this episode with someone that you feel like would enjoy it or get something out of it. Also, before we wrap up, I want to take a moment and acknowledge each one of you. It is New Year's Eve, like I said, as I record this. And as we are now at the beginning of 2024, when you're listening to this, remember, whether you faced immense challenges, celebrated victories, or just found solace in making it through 2023, you are resilient, you are valid, and you are not alone. If you are seeking connection, support, or a place to share your wins, our community is here for you, and I would love to have you join our Discord. Pop onto the Tacos Fall Apart website, find that link to the Discord, join us. Let's navigate the upcoming year together, supporting each other in every twist and turn. As we look back and bid farewell to this episode and to 2023, let's carry forward the lessons, embrace the memories, and step into 2024 and the new year with hope and determination. Your journey matters, and so do you. Thank you for being a part of Even Tacos Fall Apart. Here's to the shared experiences, the growth, and the beautiful moments yet to come. Wishing you all a wonderful new year and a fantastic start to 2024. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're a community, a family of beautiful souls embracing life's imperfections. So until next time, take care, stay true to yourself, and keep the love flowing. Cheers to the future.